Old Hank McAllister had spent nearly 70 winters on the edge of Dusty Creek, tending his cattle and living the quiet life that only a true cowboy could appreciate. His days were measured by the rising sun and the lowing of cows, and his nights were punctuated by the crackle of a wood stove and the occasional howl of a coyote in the distance. People in town said Hank was gruff, stubborn, maybe a little lonely. But anyone who truly knew him understood that he had a heart as wide as the Texas plains. It was just past dawn on a chilly spring morning when Hank noticed something unusual at the ranch gate. A shadow, larger than any he'd expected, moved slowly in the soft morning mist. He squinted, rubbed his eyes, and there it was, a massive dog, bigger than any he'd ever seen. Its coat was a mix of russet and cream, matted from travel, and its eyes were the kind that seemed to carry a story. Around its neck was a collar, worn and faded, with a small envelope tied neatly to it. Hank's first thought was caution. "Dog's gotta be lost," he muttered to himself. But as he approached, the dog did something remarkable. It wagged its tail gently, not in fear or aggression, but in a way that said, "Please, help me." He picked up the envelope and unfolded the note inside. His rough hands trembled slightly as he read. Asterisk, "Dear Sir. I'm sorry to burden you with this. My father passed away last week, and he left behind his loyal companion, Duke. He was my father's best friend, but I cannot keep him. I'm moving across the country for work, and there's no one to care for him like he deserves. Please, if you can, give him a home. With gratitude. Ella Thompson, asterisk." Hank blinked. Duke. The dog's name was Duke. And somehow, in that moment, Hank's heart softened in a way it hadn't in years. He knelt and extended a hand. Duke sniffed, then nudged it gently with his massive head. There was trust in those eyes, and Hank felt a connection that was immediate and undeniable. "Well, boy," Hank said, his voice cracking slightly, "looks like it's you and me now." Life with Duke wasn't easy at first. The dog was enormous, and every piece of furniture, every doorway, every fence seemed too small for him. But Hank didn't mind. Each morning, Duke would trot alongside him as he rounded up the cattle, his paws thundering against the dirt like a drumbeat of loyalty. In the evenings, Duke would rest his giant head on Hank's knee by the fire, and for the first time in decades, Hank felt truly seen, truly needed. Days turned into weeks, and soon Hank noticed something extraordinary. Duke had an uncanny ability to sense moods. When Hank's back ached or his heart felt heavy, Duke would lean closer, nudge him gently, and somehow, his presence lifted the weight of loneliness. The old cowboy, who once thought he could handle the world alone, realized he hadn't truly known companionship until now. One afternoon, a violent storm rolled across Dusty Creek. The wind screamed through the trees, and the sky turned an angry gray. Hank was in the barn, securing the livestock, when he heard a desperate yelp. Running outside, he saw that one of the calves had slipped and was trapped in a muddy ravine, the rising water threatening to sweep it away. Without thinking, Duke bolted. The dog leapt into the churning water, using his strength to brace the calf and guide it toward safety, with Hank wading in behind him. By the time the storm passed, both calf and dog were soaked, muddy, and exhausted, but alive. Hank stared at Duke, chest heaving, eyes brimming with tears. "You saved him. You saved all of them," he whispered. Duke barked softly, as if saying, "It's nothing, just part of the job." But Hank knew better. It wasn't just bravery, it was love. Word spread through the town about the giant dog at Hank's ranch. Children came to visit, bringing biscuits and squeaky toys. Neighbors stopped by, curious about the dog who had helped save a calf during the storm. Hank, who had always kept to himself, found himself surrounded by a community he'd long neglected, reminded that life's richest moments often came when you least expected them. Months passed, and winter settled over the ranch. One evening, as snowflakes drifted lazily from the sky, Hank found himself sitting by the fire, Duke's massive body curled beside him. He picked up the envelope from that first morning, now yellowed with age, and read Ella's note again. Tears ran down his weathered cheeks. He realized something profound. In opening his heart to Duke, he had discovered the secret to his own happiness. It wasn't about stubborn independence or pride, it was about connection, compassion, and the willingness to care for another being. Just then, Duke lifted his head, eyes glistening in the firelight. Hank smiled through his tears and whispered, "You know, Duke, you're not just a dog. You're family." The dog thumped his tail in agreement, as if he understood every word. Hank spent the rest of his days with Duke by his side. Together, they weathered storms, shared quiet mornings on the porch, and built a bond that no words could fully capture. The ranch, once a lonely expanse of land, became a home filled with laughter, warmth, and a sense of purpose that Hank hadn't realized he'd been missing. And in that, there was a lesson for anyone who stumbled upon their story. Kindness, even in small gestures, has the power to transform lives. The simple act of opening the gate to a giant dog left an old cowboy in tears, but it also opened his heart to a new life, proving that love and compassion are never too late, and that family can come in the most unexpected forms. Hank would often tell visitors, with a wink and a chuckle, sometimes, the biggest blessings come on 4 legs and a wagging tail. And in Dusty Creek, that became a saying as true as the sunrise over the plains.